Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Big Hoof Energy. I'm your host, Ryan. And as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Kaylie. No Jackson today, as he is out. I believe he has work, and then he's going to a softball game. So he's going to go hit some home runs and, participate in another sport. But we are joined by a special guest today as we're going to go over a huge weekend of racing out at Aqueduct, a handful of stakes races, Oaks and Derby preps. He is a recurring guest now, I can say. It's Andy Serling. Andy, how are you?
I'm a little hurt that Jackson chose softball over this. I'm going to get over it, but I'm going to sulk a little about this. It's I consider it a personal affront.
I will certainly pass it along to him. Hopefully, he's
let him know.
Listening. Yeah. I will. No, I'll let him know. I am also offended equally by his choice here. The work part I can understand.
Kaylie's too. I can tell she's nicer, so she's quiet about it. But she's clearly
her sport exists. So.
Andy, we have a great weekend of racing. Obviously, racing resumed today at Aqueduct. The weather looks pretty nice for this time of year. First pass through this weekend's races. What were your thoughts on it?
That if I pick one winner in the stakes, I'll feel smart. I thought that, frankly, they were, particularly the Gotham and the Busher, I think it is. I can never keep the names of those races straight. I thought they were incredibly competitive races. And, I realize Sand Devil's the horse to beat. I have no argument with that, but I think they're really competitive races, and it feels like an opportunity to not be smart often and maybe make some money, which I like.
Agree completely. Kaylie, what were your thoughts on the sequence?
Completely agree. I thought that the Busher and the Gotham were two very competitive races. I, tried to play against the favorite in both of them. Hopefully, the price sticks or get close to that. But yeah, I thought that super competitive racing and very fun to handicap.
100% difficult sequence. We are talking about 4 races and then the late pick 5 at Aqueduct. That'll start with race 6. But first up is going to be race 4. That's the grade 3 Tom Fool Stakes. We're going 6 furlongs on the dirt for 4-year-olds and upward. Picks are up on the screen. I went 4-3-1. Kaylie went 2-3-6, and Andy went 2-1-4. You can see I have left my picks up there on Formulator. Andy, as our guest, we will turn to you first with the number 2 Top Gunner.
Yeah, I think your decision in this race rests firmly on whether or not you want to buy I don't think there's anything wrong with the figure last time. It was an extremely fast race, but whether or not you think Top Gunner can run back to that. Because as a friend of mine said to me, if you take a draw line to that race, he's kind of an 8-1 shot in this race. He's just not really good. He's not totally impossible, but he's probably not good enough to win. All you have to do is sort of look at the Gravesend 2 starts ago, right? And the Fall Highway, he was 16-1 and 7-1 in those races. So it's not as though he should be bet off of those races, but he ran a huge race last time. And I think for me, it's a decision that they were aggressive with him, and being aggressive produced a big effort. And there isn't an abundance of speed in here. And maybe it's another opportunity to be aggressive. I have no issue with somebody that says, I don't want to bet this horse at a reasonably short price. Or does David have him 2-1 on the line? I think he's the key. You decide. If you want to bet against him, go for it. But if you don't, and you want to take him, I think he's a clear-cut choice. And if you like him, part of it is you feel that Bold Journey, who I think is a big contender here, needed his last race, no pace, blah, blah, blah. But he could be faced with a race that just doesn't have a lot of pace, and it's going to make things tough on him.
That was certainly something I took into account. Not a whole lot of pace, and this one got a pretty easy lead and seemed to do his best running. But Kaylie, you also picked this one on top. Do you see this one going wire to wire out on the front end?
Yeah, I saw the same exact thing. I saw him as the speed in this race. I was just looking for the horse that is likely to get out and in front here. And whether you take that figure he ran last time out serious or not, he still has the best speed of anyone in the race. So I ended up putting him on top here as well. And if he runs anything close to what he ran last time out, he's the winner. And even if he bounces just a tad, not to, the figure he ran before that, but I think that he's still going to be a major player here.
He could be a major player. I went in a bit of a different direction, trying to fade this one completely. Similar to what Andy mentioned, believe that Bold Journey wanted his last race kind of off the bench. Obviously, the ship back from Maidan could take it out, and they might need some time to reset. Bill Mott, of course, not really known for having them cranked out kind of first off the layoff. He races them into shape. So I thought last time was a decent prep. He ran behind Cyclone Mischief and Swervin. I think second off the layoff here, Aqueduct. He likes this distance of 6 furlongs here, being 11 in the money out of 14 tries. So I think he gives a good account of himself. The only issue is if there's not enough speed in here, that's definitely going to be to his detriment. But I went with the number 4, Bold Journey, on top for Bill Mott.
I think Running Son of a Gun is the horse to beat. I don't like Full Moon Madness. He just can't get out of the gate. I'm sorry. I mean, I want to like him. I love Michelle Nevin, but he can't get out of the gate. He's been left in both of his last 2 starts, and that's just a tough thing to overcome in these stake races.
Yeah, I agree. You can't really afford to give your opponents anything in these tough stakes races. Excuse me, Kaylie. You and I picked this horse in second, so we do like this one a little bit. Do the gate troubles worry you at all?
A little bit, yeah, but I thought maybe this horse could break well enough that he could sit off of, maybe the number 2. And I think, the number 1 is probably going to go from, the rail as well. So maybe this horse can sit off of those 2 and sit a nice trip that way. But I thought that it was interesting. The last time this horse was in the winner's circle was at the same distance. 7 furlongs seemed too long for him last time out. Is he flattened out a little bit in the final furlong? But I thought he has good enough speed to maybe set a stalking trip off maybe the 1 or the 2 there, we're likely to go, and could potentially put him in a favorable position, which is exactly sort of the race that this horse ran 3 back as well. And I know that the race dynamics played for speed that day, and this one was the only one to stick to the pace, besides Ridgewood Runner in there, who this one ended up out finishing. So I thought that was a good enough race to put this one second here, and hopefully, he can get out of the gate cleanly.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a clean gate break because I have this one in second as well. We'll dive down to the rail with number 1, Running Son of a Gun, coming off a neck loss in the Toboggan Stakes, but ran really well. Cuts back a furlong here. Andy, you and I both had this one in our top 3. I had this one in third. You had this one in second. Was this just the logical choice to pick up the pieces if Top Gunner didn't get the job done?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's as forward as Kaylie does. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just think he's fairly consistent. He runs well. He does seem to have trouble winning races these days, but I don't know what the knock on him is. He's a really nice horse. He's a really cool horse. I mean, he's been incredibly consistent, not winning all the time, but running solid races in these. And I just think he's logical.
Definitely logical. Hard trying horse. The effort you're going to get from him. It's just going to be a matter of if this horse is good enough come Saturday. Last horse we'll talk about in this sequence, or in this race, is the number 6 Surveillance. Interesting pick underneath for you, Kaylie. I would love to hear your reasoning here.
Yeah, this one's sort of, I have Running Son of a Gun 4th here. The number 6 kind of just ranked 3rd in my mind in terms of, quality and how the dynamics could set up here. I know he's 0 for 4 at Aqueduct, but he's run some good races at Aqueduct. For instance, he was second behind Full Moon Madness, November 24th, which I thought was a decent effort. Has some tactical speed and versatility, and although he's 8 years old, the buyers are pretty competitive and on par with the rest of this field. And how, the concern is that the horse improved in his last 3, which were all run on Lasix. It's not really a huge concern, though, as the horse has run good races off of it. So I think, this horse could be a big player here, and I thought it was a decent price, a fair price at 6-1 on the morning line.
Certainly a fair price. Could just sit kind of the best of trips with that outside kind of stalking ability. Might be able to get the jump on any of those late runners. That's race number 4. I went 4-3-1. Kaylie went 2-3-6, and Andy went 2-1-4. We'll move on now to race number 6, the Stymie Stakes. We're going 1 mile again on the dirt, as turf racing has not yet resumed back in upstate New York, or in Ozone Park, New York. I'm looking forward to it, though. That's always my favorite time of the spring. We were talking about that last week or so. I'll put the picks up for race number 6 here. Oh, maybe. I went 5-1-8. Kaylie and Andy both 7-3-5 in lockstep on this one. So we'll start out with you, Kaylie, for the number 7. If we want to load here, Worcester for Brittany Russell.
Yeah, this horse is pretty cool horse. I mean, started off in the Bob Baffert barn and didn't quite make it on the California circuit. So they, sent him to a trainer that typically does well with those types of horses, that they think would run well on the East Coast. Since then, the first start for this barn, the horse ran second, and that was after almost a year layoff, getting a 75 Beyer speed figure, and then runs back essentially the same race. Twice to win in his last two, the 92 and the 91. So I thought those are some pretty high figures for Laurel Park, and seems to be running against some pretty decent company. Strikes me as a horse that can improve getting the stretch back out to a mile today. He did break his maiden around 2 turns at Santa Anita, so clearly the 1-turn mile is going to be, no issue for this one. And granted, I know that was up on the lead, but I think this one is pretty versatile. As he's also gotten himself into some pace stools up on the front end, 2 back, and then came from last to win in his last start. So I thought this one was pretty versatile and pretty interesting, and good way to play against your couple of your favorites in here.
Yeah, definitely. I like it. Andy, you also picked this one on top.
I'm already insulted. I mean, having seen the Grateful Dead at the Worcester Center many, many times, I'm particularly annoyed that you mispronounced the horse's name. So I'm going to try to get past that, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a struggle for me. You could have possibly ruined the entire evening for me.
Oh, no.
I think this is somewhat of a 3-horse race. I guess Coastal Mission is far from impossible in here, though. I just think he's consistently a little slower, and he was bad last time. I think Yo Daddy's way the horse to beat. His form is good. I know he's sort of moving up, but he's been in really, really good form, and Bank Frenzy's fine. I thought he was maybe a cut below the best of Yo Daddy, but he's fine. So I was just sort of looking at the 3 of them, and I basically took the horse that would be the biggest price of them on top. I don't love Worcester in here, and I do think, like a lot of people, you look at him and Post Time comes to mind, right? The same connections. I think it's admirable that Brittany Russell keeps riding her husband, despite the fact that there might be better riders available. But I'll get past that. And I just feel like he's a horse that, was good enough early in his career and fast enough to win a race like this. And while he hasn't quite gotten to those figures recently, he does have them to get to. And I also thought that positionally he'd be in a good spot. Concealed Carry's likely to go. And I thought with the right ride, he could be sitting second behind a horse who's, at least to me, overmatched. And maybe he'd just get the right trip and a little bit of the jump on Yo Daddy and Bank Frenzy. So I picked him because he's a better price. If somebody said to me they're all the same price, I'd pick Yo Daddy in this race. But at a better price, I don't mind taking a small shot with Worcester. I do think, though, that one of those 3 is a very likely winner of this race.
Yeah, I can agree with your third pick there. I looked a different way than the number 7, so I'll hope I'm right in this scenario. I know I'm not going to get a great price on the number 5, Bank Frenzy, in this one. I do just think he's the best horse. I like to see Manny Franco keep the mount here. I think this one has some good kind of tactical ability, and this runner clearly loves the Aqueduct race courses. He's never been worse than second in 7 tries. He's 6 for 7 in the exact at this distance, going the 1-turn mile, wet track or not. He may be a bit of a wet track specialist as he's 4 for 4, but I'm hoping for, either track on Saturday comes his way. And I feel confident that he's going to fire a nice effort. He's always a consistent runner, whether it's against state breds or open company. So I'll give him another look here. Not too creative at the 2-1 morning line, but that was how I saw it. The number 3, Yo Daddy, Andy briefly spoke about. Kaylie, you had this one in second. What did you like about this runner here?
Yeah, I mean, I saw this as the horse to beat too, for sure. I can see this one kind of sitting, mid-pack and making one big run. Kind of the trip I envisioned for this one. And he seems to be in the best form that he's been in. And clearly, loves going 1 mile at Aqueduct as well. So handles all types of tracks, wet and fast. So, I mean, this one definitely stuck out as, the horse to beat here.
Yeah, he did stand out a little bit. Andy, anything to add on the number 3, Yo Daddy?
No, I think this race, to me, this race is pretty cut and dry. I mean, listen, you've got an idea with Concealed Carry, which is fine. He'll be a big price, and he does look like the speed, but I didn't have a clever idea in this race. I saw it as I thought this race, as much as any of the races, was fairly logical. Whether it turns out that way or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, it does look like it could produce a logical result. I did go with the number 1 concealed carry as my second pick in here. I'm hoping for something wild. I'm hoping maybe Ocasio just kind of gets out to the lead with this runner, and maybe they just ignore him and leave him alone for a little bit too long and let him go maybe too slow up front, and he's able to just kind of kick away and finish things off. That's pretty much, I would think, the only way that this runner really has a chance at winning, but he's had some pretty good form over at Parks going the mile. I know it's 2 turns over there, but comes in here. The off Lasix running isn't going to be a question with him. I know he can handle it, so I'm hoping the 1 turn mile is to his liking, and I will certainly get a pretty nice price on him. Last one we'll talk about quickly is the number 8 Coastal Mission. I picked this one in third. Just I thought he'd been facing better in his recent races. Obviously 2 back. You have the morning line favorite for the Big Cap at Santa Anita this Saturday in Locked, along with Mullican and Post Time in there. All of those runners would be 1 to 5 if they were in this race. So I wanted to go off the kind of prior form in the back class that Coastal Mission has. Always a hard trying horse. He's going to be coming late, and it's just going to be a matter of if he can get there or not. But he also loves the 1 turn mile. So that is race number 8. I went 5-1-8. Kaylie and Andy in lockstep at 7-3-5, and that is race number 6. Next up, Kentucky Oaks points are on the line in the Busher Invitational. I'll put the picks up on the screen now. Race number 7, I went 9-1-2. Kaylie went 2-1-9, and Andy 2-1-3. Still waiting for DRF to update here, but the number 2 is Ramify. Andy, I'll start with you this time around. Chad Brown, Juddmonte. This is your top pick in here.
Yeah, this is a tricky race. I mean, I think a lot of horses can win. I think the 1 can win, the 2 can win, the 3 can win, slightly the 5. I think the 9 Sharp Smile can win. Ramify was against the bias last time, and I thought ran well enough to win this first time out and would look a little bit worse than she is. I won't bet her at 7-2. To be honest, I might change my picks. If she's really going to be the 7-2 she is morning line, I'm going to pick Drexel Hill, who I picked third. I'll just switch my picks around. I'm sorry, I'm not going to commit to these picks at this point because I haven't put them on the website, and I think it's very open. I thought Ramify might be a 5-6 to 1 shot, and I think there has to be concern that Chad Brown's horses have been underperforming badly so lately at Aqueduct, and I think that's relevant. I think Liam in the Dust is very logical. Ramify was just against the track, but at 7-2, I'm not going to bet on her, to be honest. David's usually right, so I don't see any reason why I should disagree with that. And I think Drexel Hill might be the best bet of all of these. I even think the 1's a better bet at 9-2, and I think the Drexel Hill is a better bet. So I'm going to probably end up reevaluating this because I hadn't looked at the morning line, and looking it up there makes me want to bet Ramify less because she's no 7-2 shot to me. To me, she's a 6-1 shot, and I don't want her at half that price.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you there, and certainly don't blame you for changing your opinions, as you're definitely, able to do so if the wagering side of things doesn't really equate to what you handicap. Kaylie, you also like the number 2 Ramify on top in here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely went back and forth between the 1, the 2, and the 3 here. I made like a pick 5 ticket. Those are the 3 horses I have on it in here. I think all 3 of them are win contenders. I went with Ramify on top just because of the fact that, she was so against the track last time out in the Busanda. And I also thought that her debut was super impressive. She won going a mile. She was pretty green there. I mean, she broke poorly. She was like trailing 13 lengths off the leader. And then she like swallowed up horses around the turn. She came super wide to take over the lead over my Sharona. I mean, if you're trying to poke holes there, I mean, my Sharona really strikes me as a hanger type of horse. I mean, but is a horse that runs decent races and has never been in a field that doesn't have one of the top Oaks contenders in it. So, Ramify has been running against pretty good company just in, that second start, especially obviously in the Busanda. She was up against the track, and I thought that she ran well given that. And, she comes from a huge Juddmonte family, actually the same female family as her stablemate, Jeramond, that's in the Gotham, which I thought was pretty interesting. I did not going to bore you guys with that, but did a deep dive on that. This horse, has a really big pedigree. And I like the fact that Javier's riding. Is coming up for the day and clearly, thinks he has a sure shot with these two horses, Ramify and the one in the Gotham as well. So yeah, I thought this one, I viewed her as the horse to beat in here, but I could really see it setting up for a horse like Liam in the Dust or Drexel Hill as well.
Yeah, 100%. I'll talk briefly about Liam in the Dust here. The rail runner gets blinkers on for Rue de Brissette. Luan Machado up from Turfway Park to ride this one. I thought was a bit interesting as he rode this runner 2 back at Churchill Downs. The Demoiselle Stakes. I question how the forms held up from there. Obviously, Mahima just came back last weekend and was a disappointing finish in there. I believe finished third. But, had kind of dead aim on the front runners and just wasn't able to reel them in. Maybe just needed one off the bench. Ballerina Doro runs in, I believe, the Devonadale Saturday at Gulfstream Park. So we'll kind of get a look of how that horse comes back after also having a break since December 7th, with that being her last entrant. But Liam in the Dust, coming off that same layoff as those other two finishers, is going to show up here, gets blinkers for the occasion. Hopefully that kind of keeps this horse maybe a little more focused. Obviously, I'll trust Rue de Brissette doing that, but I wanted this horse in second. I thought 9-2 was definitely a fair price on this runner. Quickly, I'll go out to the number 9, Kaylie, where you and I both like this horse a little bit. I have this one as my top pick. I like the post draw, I think, the most out of here. I like the practical jokes going the 1-turn mile. Wasn't too complicated for me, and I thought 3-1 would definitely be a fair price on this one. You had this one in third. Did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I didn't really want this one anywhere near 3-1. I mean, I know I don't have her on top either, but I thought that, this horse, I mean, you can find some holes in the past performances. I did think that last in the Busanda, she ran pretty well. I mean, she got third over, heavy speed bias track, and she blew the break there. So I thought she ran pretty well given the circumstances, and it's cutting back to 1 mile today. Which is how she broke her maiden. And obviously, it's more her speed. She's sired by Practical Joke. And, Manny Franco obviously stays aboard as well, which is a positive. He's the leading jockey at the meet. And then you don't really have to be concerned with this one. She's one of the only ones in here that you don't have to read too much in a Lasix because she's, never ran with it. So, and I also like that she drew to the outside, and Manny can kind of play the break here as well. But I didn't really view this one as a win candidate, but more so a horse that I think can definitely, run third here.
Very fair. We are spread across 4 horses in this race, number 7. I went 9-1-2, Kaylie at 2-1-9, and Andy 2-1-3. Next,
one thing I want to say,
though,
I think there's a real chance that Liam in the Dust is the controlling speed in this race, and I think that should not be ignored in here. It's not a race full of a lot of speed, and I would say about Mohima, I think Mohima showed that she can't rate last week. I think that's what she really showed. I know Ballerina Dior had been training extremely well. She had a fever, and that's why she was scratched from the Rachel Alexander, the Silver Bolt, whichever the race they were running. I don't know. I assume she's trained pretty well, but I think I don't think it exposed the Demoiselle as much as it exposed Mohima personally.
And that's yeah, Liam in the Dust, I just want to say, is super battle tested. If you look at every single race that this horse has run, I mean, she's been running against some of the best fillies in this division, and getting blinkers for the first time, I think, is really going to help this one. And they're going to send her going from the rail. She has great speed, and I found a stat. I mean, Brissette is 6 for 23 over the last 5 years with 3-year-olds getting blinkers for the first time on the dirt, 26%. Compared to his overall win percentage of 18%. So clearly it's a move that he's had a lot of success with in the past as well. And yeah, I definitely view this one as a win candidate.
Yeah, it's certainly a sneaky play. You mentioned it. You brought up a great point with this one being battle tested, having facing the likes of Mohima, who we just mentioned, Lacara, and Immersive. All right, that is race number 7, the 1 mile Busher Invitational. Next up, we're staying with a mile. We're staying with the 3-year-olds this time for the boys. Kentucky Derby points are on the line in the Gotham Stakes. 1 mile again for the 3-year-olds. Picks are up on the screen. I went 9-8-3. Kaylie went 9-5-3, and Andy went 3-1-5. The number 3 is Calling Card, who recently scratched out of a race, and I can't remember where. I want to say Turfway, but it must have been for this spot.
Yes.
Andy, did you see that as a vote of confidence, or this is your topic?
Maybe somebody hit Kirk Wyckoff in the head and said, how could you possibly now run this horse in synthetic? Haven't you done enough stupid things with him? I can say that because Kirk's a good friend of mine. I like making fun of him. I think he's a smart guy. But the truth is, I don't know why they left New York with a New York bred like this. And I'm not so sure that what he really does want to do is go 1-turn miles. The end of the day, if he runs back to his maiden race, this field's in some trouble unless Sand Devil runs his good race. And Sand Devil he's the horse to beat. But, Sacrosanct has a lot of speed. And I think the potential for this pace to get hot really exists. And while I'm a fan of Sand Devil, I think he's a really good horse, I don't need him as the favorite in this race because I don't think his trip is going to make it easy for him. And Calling Card ran super there. I don't think he ran that badly in his subsequent races, particularly last time where he was just wide and out of position the whole way around. And I don't love him. I don't totally trust him. But that win, that 87 Beyer, it's not just that he ran that fast figure. He didn't break. I mean, he had sort of ridiculous trip in there and just throttled those horses. And that race exists. And I just wonder a little bit if they just kind of lost just like what they were supposed to do with him. And like I said, these are friends of mine. And I would say this to Kirk and I think he would agree. He'd say, I should have left him in New York, and obviously hindsight's 2020 and that's all easy. And, the purses are good, but now he's back in the race he should have been all along. And it's a month and a half since his last start. I have a lot of respect for horses in this race. I think it's a wide open, interesting race. And I think a whole lot of horses can win. But I do think this horse's last race at this distance, at this track, will make him extraordinarily tough to beat. And he's not going to be a super short price.
He's not. He's certainly going to offer some fair value. And you mentioned it. His 1-turn mile experience here on the dirt definitely wins, I would say, versus this field. Yeah, your morning line favorite we'll touch on briefly before going to Kaylie and Ryan's top pick is the number 5 Sand Devil, undefeated colt coming in here for a New York bred out of Violence. I was against this horse completely. I thought maybe the last race took a little too much out of him, and he could regress maybe a tad. Not to mention that there is an abundance of speed in here, or enough speed that I think this pace could get hot, as you mentioned, Andy. I wanted to play against this horse in here. Has only faced state breds in his career. He gets a test for his open company. I mean, obviously, if he runs to that those low mid 90 Beyer speed figures, he's going to be really tough in here. But I'm going to take the chance that he's going to get beat. Kaylie, we landed up on the same horse, the number 9 Garamond. You can take it away with your top pick in here, also trained by Chad Brown.
Yeah, so this horse debuted at Tampa Bay Downs, and I thought that was a pretty impressive debut. I mean, at the start, I know it's not noted in the comments, and it was kind of hard to tell on video, but it really looked like this horse got sandwiched in between the horse on his inside and his outside when he broke and kind of got shuffled back there. And then he kind of just naturally got in touch with the rest of the field and then pulled away from them to win by 2 in the end. I saw this one maybe sitting off of, Sacrosanct and Sand Devil, who are probably going to battle it out together on the front end. I thought this one, can maybe sit a nice trip here. And I don't really see Chad Brown bringing a lot of, winners on debut at Tampa up to New York, moving into graded stakes company. And I thought that this one's last work was very impressive. I mean, he's working over a training track that is super deep sand and, it's kind of a slow track. And I thought that his works are impressive. And, I think he worked with Incentive Pay in company. I watched that video. I thought he looked really, really good there.
Last work? Was that with Incentive Pay?
Yeah, I think that was on the 25th, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Incentive Pay was originally going to come here. And so, yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Interesting. Yeah. So I thought, this one very much held his own. I thought he actually outworked that one. So I really like this one coming in here. And I thought, you're going to get a pretty good price on him. You have major players in here like Sand Devil. That's really fast horse. So I viewed it as an opportunity to get a pretty good price on a Chad Brown horse that I view as a win contender here. And again, comes from that huge, classy Juddmonte family as well.
Yeah, certainly bred to be a good runner. I like this one. I think this one got the best of the draw compared to the other kind of speeds in here. I know the 10 has some forward ability as well, but I think the 9's probably going to sit in front of him and hopefully just off the pace. I'm hoping Sacrosanct, messing up on the name, but hoping him and Sand Devil kind of go at each other, and Garamond just gets that nice trip right behind the pace setters, and hopefully steps up into this spot and clearly seems to be training very well.
I'm dying to call you out. Sorry, Kaylie. On something you said, Ryan.
Yeah.
You said that Sand Devils only face New York Reds. You know the top 3 morning line choices are all New York Reds here.
Yes, they are. Yes,
just getting it in there. Defending.
I like it. I like it. I'm still, no, all the respect.
Kaylie, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Oh, just, I mean, this isn't really important to the race dynamics like what you just said, but I mean, the Garamond, Juddmonte sold most of the dams foals besides this one. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. They kept this one to race. Pretty excited to see how this one runs coming up to New York.
I will tell you that before this horse ever ran, Chad Brown said he's going to win and he's going to come to the Gotham. So he has liked this horse and probably working, and you thought he worked well against Incentive Pay is probably a good sign. My problem is that was a terrible field that he beat last time. Mm-hmm. That's my concern. And that's why I didn't use him in here. I think there's a very interesting horse in this race, and maybe it's just a ridiculous idea, but scorching. I mean, the trainer brought this horse all the way down from Woodbine to run here, and he's been training here all winter, which suggests to me that he worked well on the training track at Woodbine, which is a dirt track. He's got pedigree that says he can handle all distance, all surfaces. He's running races on both turf and synthetic as a 2-year-old that are fast enough to compete here. And now he's 5 months since his last race. He could easily improve 10 points. Now, he's got to handle the dirt, and I don't love that conceptually. But his pedigree and just the way they're handling him says they think I can't believe they would ship him here for 3 months, 2 months, whatever, to run in this race. If they didn't, if he was training lousy in the dirt, they would probably say it's a bad idea. We'll just bring him back to Woodbine and we'll be open soon. Can run synthetic and dirt there or turfway or whatever. So they look, they could be wrong, but this is a guy who's good enough to win this race almost on his form last year. And if he handles the dirt, he's a huge player here, and he could be any kind of price.
He absolutely could, and he's definitely going to offer some good value. And you nailed it. Yeah, if this one transfers his form over to dirt, certainly a jump up with the 5-month break could definitely put him deep in contention here.
Can we mention some more horses? I want to talk about Normandy Coast. I think Eddie Keneally is one of the sharpest trainers around. You don't hear about him that much because he's only in Kentucky. He doesn't have a ton of horses. Where did he start last year? 256 horses. And, he's somebody who Tom Worley, Brennan Walsh all worked for him. And he's not shipping this horse here unless he thinks doing well. It's another horse that was running figures that, with routine improvement, he could get there. He's got to get a little bit better. But I don't think this horse is impossible. I think the horse is going to take a little money here that I don't like is Flood Zone, because I just think his last race, that figure is completely unreliable. And I don't think it's figure maker's fault. I think it's the fact that Gulfstream runs 2 and 3 dirt races a day. And I think it's virtually impossible to make accurate dirt figures there. And I don't trust it at all. And I think he'll take some money as a private purchase for Brad Cox. That's all I got.
Yeah, you brought up a great point. It's tough to track the buyer speed figures down at Gulfstream when they card so few and they're all sporadic throughout the day. Often, one in the beginning, middle, and end of the card. It's tough to keep track as the course could change throughout the day. Last one we'll talk about is Rick Dutro trainee McAfee. Scratched out of a race last time, and I obviously have some concerns about this. The work pattern, a little bit spotty, but I did love this horse as a 2-year-old in November of last year at Churchill. I thought ran a really nice race behind Optical. Comes back in this spot. He's going to have to really, improve, and he's going to have to overcome the kind of inconsistency with the training schedule. And, he's got some hurdles for sure. But I think if he takes a step up, I think 10-1 offers the right kind of value.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what Andy thinks of this one. I mean, I was really tempted to include this one. I mean, obviously, I really liked him last year. He's a half to Torpedo Anna, but it's just not enough to, I was very concerned to see the horse scratched out. a couple times. I mean, I know he's, working up to this, and he's a horse that's going to be picking up pieces in the end. So he was one that I gave a look to, just given that, him and Calling Card, but, ended up going with Calling Card. He's just seems to be a better horse, but I do think that this one's going to be picking up some pieces at the end. So just kind of curious to see what Andy thought of this one.
Well, I think the scratch is an important thing to discuss. They didn't scratch this horse. This horse was a vet scratch twice. And in fact, I believe the connections made a number of comments around it that he's fine, the vets don't like him. And I've heard this story before, and I tend to believe it from Rick Dutrow because he's somebody I do trust that doesn't run horses with infirmities. I think it's interesting because he's cross-centered at Parks. And my guess is it would be much easier to pass the vet at Parks. The problem is if they decide to run here and he gets a vet scratch, he can't run at Parks either. And Rick had commented he expected to run in this race, to be honest. So maybe he's confident he can pass the vet. I don't really know, but the scratches are a little bit odd. I don't disagree that he's a player. He could be a player in this race. I respect Rick a lot. I'm curious to see if he's going to actually run, but I don't know that I would hold the scratches against him that much because they were vet scratches that the connections clearly seem to disagree with, for better or worse.
I did not know the connection said that, so thanks for providing that nice insight into this runner. Yeah, I thought he was finally going to offer some good value. He was a pretty heavy or not a heavy favorite, but he was a second choice under 2-1 last out. Churchill Downs. I believe he was pretty low on the morning line in one of the stakes races he scratched out of in New York. So I'm looking forward.
He scratched out of the Miami Matoli race. That was the last time he scratched.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that jogging my memory. But yeah, I thought he'd offer some good value here if he were to draw in. So he's a horse I'm looking forward to just seeing run back because Kaylie, you mentioned it, half to Torpedo. That is race number 8, the Gotham Stakes, going a mile on the dirt. Next up, we have a mile for state bred optional claiming non-2 other than runners. As DRF loads the picture up on the screen, I went 8-1-10. Kaylie went 8-6-4. Andy 4-8-2. So we saw this race a little similarly. Real quick, we'll just say hi to Matthew DeSantis down in the chat. Kenny, great stuff, guys. Appreciate it. And Felipe, hey, horse racing. Appreciate you guys for joining and participating in the live chat. To start off, we'll go to the number 4 for Landa Oro. Andy, this is your top pick in here.
Yeah, I thought this was a tough race. I wish I had a stronger opinion here than I do, but I think there's a possibility that maybe that fig, the 80 fig last time Landoro got, is a little bit light. He stumbled the break, didn't really affect him, but he just sort of ran a weird race. It's like he ran in spots. He looked like he was running, then he dropped out like he wasn't running, and then he came at the end. And I think it's a bit stronger race than suggests. Shadow Dragon normally runs in the mid to high 80s. He came back with 85. I don't know. I'll take a look and see if Dr. Kraft, who I think ran second, he's such a hanger today, see what kind of number he ran today. But I think maybe he ran a better number too. So I just feel like that race might be a little better than it looks. And I feel of all the horses in here, maybe he just has a little bit more upside than some of these horses. Dr. Kraft improved 4 points off of that race. So I think that it might just be a little bit better race than it looks. And while I respect the 8 and obviously I have him second, I don't trust him off his last race. But I just thought that Landoro's okay. Maybe I have a bit of a thing for this horse. I've always thought he's a little bit better than his results. So I'm going to give him one last chance.
I certainly can understand where you're coming from. Second off the bench for Christophe Clement versus the same level after only losing by a head could definitely improve upon that. Kaylie, I'll go to you. We both have the 8, the morning line favorite, quick to accuse, at 2-1 as our top pick.
Yeah, I thought that this was a pretty tough race as well. It was definitely the one that I found to be the most difficult. I don't really know how much I trust the number 8 here, but I know that, his last one came at this level, at this distance, over this track. He's dropping back down in class. The only time he ran at this level, he was protected, and now he's dropping in for a tag. So I don't know if you want to view that as a bit of a negative. I thought, I was filtering the stats about, Brad Cox dropping horses in for a tag for the first time, and I found contradicting stats about it that, didn't give me the most confidence, but I thought dropping back down in class again. It should put this one in a nice position. And, the horse, 2 back at this distance, he ran a 87 buyer and finished second to Treaty Obligation. I thought that was a pretty good race. That was like a standout race to me. I think it maybe can set up similarly today. And, the pace kind of collapsed there and he came closing and picking up the pieces. And then a lot in there who he beat came back to improve in their next start. The one that sticks out is Iridescent, who improved, 15 buyer speed figure points in his next start and another 14 in the start after that. So I thought that was a positive to see as well. So, I ended up putting this one on top, but I definitely gave a really long look to Landuro as well. And it's kind of notable that, in his last start on January 23rd, I'm talking about Landuro, that, it wasn't a clear bias, but it was noted by Andy that the rail was pretty good that day. And, this one came down the stretch in the 3 path and chased the winner. That was, on his inside and he was gaining and kind of just missed there. So I thought maybe if the track plays more fairly as well and just gets a better trip, that this horse is definitely a win candidate as well.
Yeah, I want to say some things about Brad Cox and Quick to Accuse that are probably positive. He was also a little against the track last time. He sucked, but he was a little against the track. If you kind of look at the Cox barn, they had been sort of unbeatable for a period of time, which includes when this horse ran that. And I agree, if he runs his race 2 back, this field's probably in a lot of trouble. And then they went cold, and it's not surprising. There's ebbs and flows, and their horses sort of seemed to take a step back, and that was during the period the Quick to Accuse ran. And you can look at it. That horse that won today from post 7 that took all the money, he, came back and ran huge today after running lousy last time and having run well the time before that. And there have been a number of those horses. So the way the barn is going now, this horse is supposed to run pretty well. And he's a 5-year-old. Where are they really going with him? Drop's not great. For what it's worth, for me, Kaylie, when I look at stats for Brad's barn, I look at strictly their NYRA stats. And non-maidens, to get rid of maiden special weight to maiden claimers, non-maidens first time for a tag on the dirt, they're 8 for 21. It's a pretty high percentage in the high 30s with a $1.70 ROI. So they're losing a little less than the takeout. And those aren't spectacular numbers, but they're pretty good. So it does seem like their horses do pretty well when they drop down, at least at NYRA, for what it's worth. And I do feel like that barn, the low last time, so I think he's going to be really tough in this race in all likelihood. Just very logical.
Yeah, he is. And especially against State Bred company that he faces today, his last 2 against State Bred, he really blew the doors off that competition. So I'm hoping he can get right back there. And both those races came over the Aqueduct racetrack. So
he won this race before. I mean, he won this race 5 back, right, with an 88 buyer.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. My main concern with this runner is that, why not try some New York Stakes company before kind of dropping him in for the tag? But maybe they just, kind of ran through all the conditions and just want to put him back in a spot where he can win. If he gets claimed, he gets claimed. But I thought facing State Bred competition, he got a decent outside draw here. Again, should just kind of tuck in behind, and the 1 mile, 1 turn distance seems to be to his liking. So this is my top pick, and I was pretty confident in this one. I don't know that I'll be playing any horizontals at Aqueduct this Saturday, but if I was, I believe he's my most confident pick. I'll have to wait till scratches and all that come out, but I was very high on this runner. We'll dip down to the number 2 inside of the coupled entry neural network for Ilke Contamachi. Andy, you like this one down in 3rd?
I wonder if he's better going a mile, and I'm not going to hold his muddy track race against him, the sealed track 2 back. I wonder if getting back to a mile, he's got some good figures. The Contamachi barn's going well. I think there's a lot of horses that could be 3rd. I think the 1A is dangerous in here. I didn't really like Lots of Trouble, but I can see the argument for him as a fringe player as well. So I just have him sort of as my 3rd pick, but I'm primarily going to lean on the 4 and 8 here. So I think there could be a whole slew of C's if you're playing, pick 5s that way, whereas the 4 and 8 are the ones I just think I would use.
Yeah, I don't disagree that much. I used the coupled entry as my 2nd pick in here. I thought 4 to 1 was pretty fair value considering you don't typically get that on a coupled entry, and I'm thinking it'll probably go down to maybe 7 to 2, but still that's fair. And they have the kind of inverse running styles, and with My Last Mission kind of being more forwardly placed and Hagrid's Flame coming from off the pace. So I feel like, you have a foot in each bucket, or whatever the expression may or may not be. But I like that they kind of have complementary running styles in a race like this. If they both draw in, they're both going to be usable for me because, if the straight one maybe just gets a loose lead, he could take him all the way around. But if he duels with somebody, Hagrid's Flame might just have the pace in front of him to pick up the pieces. So
yeah, I don't think he's going to get it easily in front of the King Cheek, but I do think it's what you mentioned has a lot of validity in the sense that at the very least, that My Last Vision's a bit of a rabbit in this race, right, to sort of help it. And I think whether or not, he helps Hagrid's Flame win or not, I think that having him in this race, despite the pace projector having him fifth early, I wonder if he's a horse that makes this a fairly quick pace. It probably is going to be a quick pace. And I think his presence, whether you like him or not, is important as part of this race.
It is definitely something to factor in. We'll go to the number 6, Kaylie. Lots of Trouble, a horse that you have in second.
This one really interested me. I mean, 10-1 on the morning line for a Pletcher horse obviously stood out to me. And this strikes me as a horse that could probably improve, trying going a mile again. It looks like it could be the right distance for him. His only mile attempt was when, he was facing winners for the first time. And, he did have some trouble there as well. He came very wide. He, brushed with another horse and went even wider and kind of just got tired there. And then his most recent win came at the claiming 25 level, where he came from off the pace to win by 2.5. So I thought, that was a good race to look back to. That was against Open Company, going 7 furlongs. And then, he cut back last time out to 6 furlongs and, just kind of took himself out of the race after getting bumped. So I think maybe he can improve stretching back out to a mile. And, he broke his maiden in gate to wire fashion and then won from off the pace and, the other 2 wins. So I think the horse could be a bit versatile and kind of curious to see what trip he sits. I imagine him sitting maybe mid-pack here, and he should have some pace in front of him to close into. So I thought this one was pretty interesting at 10-1.
I like him more of his last race than his race 2 back. I thought he got a perfect trip against the lousy field 2 back. I think his last race maybe ran okay. I don't know what to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay.
My general feelings, he's not good enough, but I think there's logic to what you're saying. I won't be shocked if at a price he runs well. He was part of that pit 5. That was the day we were in Jamaica. It was the day before we were on the air, and I had really liked him that day and was alive with the 2 favorites for thousands in the last race of the Big 5. And I thought, oh, this is really great. I'm sitting by the pool in Jamaica, and I'm going to make a big score. And neither of the horses last race ran a step. I think they ran 3rd and 4th, like way back. So that's why I look at Less Trouble. It's an easier field. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if he steps up, and he is that kind of horse with some muddied up form. He certainly has some races to get back to and improve upon. So if he runs an A effort, he might be pretty dangerous. Last one we'll talk about is the King Cheek. Andy alluded to this one kind of being a pace setter in this race, and I agree. Definitely fleet-footed out of the gate. Breaks pretty well most of the time, and he's you know where he's going. He's going straight to the front. And he's going to try and hold on. Chris Elliott aboard with the 5-pound bug. He's been having a really nice winter meet at Aqueduct. He's the outside speed, if anything else. If My Last Mission decides to apply some like rabbit type tactics and send out from the front, this one could get the King Cheek caught up. But I thought at 10-1 offers some pretty fair value with a horse that he's going to be forward early, and it will clear. That's all the better for me. That is race number 9. We're going a mile, optional claimer non-2 other than. I went 8-1-10, Kaylie 8-6-4, and Andy 4-8-2. Last race we'll talk about is a state-bred maiden special weight race. We're going 6 furlongs, of course, on the dirt. As I wait for DRF to load, it's having a slow evening. I'll throw the picks up on the screen. I went 6-9-1, Kaylie 6-1-11, and Andy 9-1-6. Your morning line favorite, I believe, is down on the rail. Money burner in New York as of late. That is the number 1 Vakinda. I guess we'll talk about him first. Have we all just kind of seen enough of this horse? Kaylie, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like a horse that, is 10 starts deep, 20 starts deep, and his like a career maiden here. Like I could see this horse winning, but do you really want to take a horse on top that went off at such a short price? And, all of his last 4 starts. Was not able to get the job done. Probably not. So that's why I put him second here. But yeah, not a horse that I'd be leaving off of my pick 5s though, because I can, see him sitting the right type of trip here. And I will say this horse I took last time out because it was his second time running with Lasix, which I thought maybe was a bit of an improvement angle. But, he broke out at the start, bumping into another horse, came super wide, and then seven wide into the stretch. Today he draws the 1 hole. So, which granted, if he breaks cleanly, maybe that could be of an assist for him because he won't have to travel so wide. So I thought, if this horse can break, that could help him out. And he's clearly the best speed from what we've seen so far or no. So he's going to play a big factor regardless of if he graduates here. I mean, he always finishes second. I could see that happening, but it's, I think, a positive sign at least that Manny Franco isn't turned off by this horse either. I mean, he hops aboard again. So I didn't want to take him on top, but definitely have him second for those reasons.
Yeah. Andy, did you have thoughts on this runner as you picked him underneath as well?
Well, if he runs back to his race 2 back, he's going to be tough. And Prince Valiant, though he's on a good rail, sort of, actually it wasn't, it was too wide. He kind of justified that race. And I could argue he was against the track last time. I thought speed was pretty good last time. And not sure why he was so far back with Manny, but from the rail, he's got to go, and that may help him, I mean, Roofer's probably faster, and but it's Eric Cancel. He's always capable of dragging him back to last. And I think America's Back will be close too. So I don't have a big problem with him. I think there's a horse in here, if he runs his best race, is going to win, and that's the 9, Share the Loot. I mean, first of all, I think it's a big rider change. I really do. And I mean, this horse is race 2 back. 2 and 3 back, I say, but 2 back even was pretty good. And last time out, I mean, he just got, first of all, he's running his Tappan Street, but Tapan Street, but he was completely eliminated at the break, just completely eliminated and basically eased. So I don't know his last race against him. And I got to tell you, I think it's a chance he's the best horse in the race. I'm not sure he's not better than the 1 anyway. I don't think he's going to be a big price, but he's going to be at least a slightly better price. So I just think he's really logical in here.
He is logical. He is absolutely a logical pick in here, as I have that one in second. I gave this one a really close look, but I ended up with the number 6, America's Back, as my top pick. Kaylie, you also like this one too. I'll turn it over to you, as we both have this as our top pick in the race.
Just, taking a shot with the second-time starter, who I thought ran pretty well on debut, should improve second time out. Hopefully, he can save some ground here, and sure has enough speed to put him into the early mix as well. So, and he's sired by Practical Joke, whose progeny are dominant in these type of spots. I'm just taking the second-time starter improvement angle here with one that didn't really have the easiest trip first time out, but still ran a 64 buyer, which is pretty decent first time out, or at least puts him on par with the others if he's able to improve here off of that. So definitely wanted to give this one another shot. I think I put him on top actually in that race. So, I'm going to take another shot with him here.
Yeah, he took some money on the debut. I think there were a couple other scratches in there, so he went down a little bit from his projected morning line, which was somewhere around 10-1. I like the middle move that he made last time. I like that when a first-time starter makes a little bit of a middle move. Wasn't entirely able to sustain it, but Mike Maker, not really known for his first-time out starters. He tends to get better kind of as they race on in their career. So second-time starter, he made that nice middle move that I like, and I think you'll get somewhat of a fair price because I do think Vakinda is going to eat a lot of money in here. Luan Machado aboard. They're a common pairing down at Turfway Park over the winter season. So I like this one a bit. Andy, you also gave a shout to this as you have this one in third.
Yeah, I think all your points are really valid. I did want to mention another horse in here. That's the 12, Dio Romano. It's not in my top 3, but could have been. And this horse is kind of dirtied up by running on the wrong surfaces and taking this horse out of New York and going to Florida with a New York bred, which honestly, I just don't understand. I really don't understand why you would do that. This horse's first race is not that bad, I mean, 10 lengths behind Cyclone State, who may have been a joke at 2-1 in Saudi, but he's not bad. At least he wasn't bad in some races here. I don't think this horse is impossible at all, and he'll probably be a pretty big price. So I think he's a new gelding. I think both of Mel Giddings horses in here are dangerous.
Certainly, the 12 deserved a look. Last horse I think we should talk about, Kaylie, is your third choice in here, the number 11 at a price 15-1 on Sanzio.
Kaylie just loves Aunt Babe, the dam. That's what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I had the 9 fourth. I agree with your points on that one. Bit of a wild card here, but I mean, I took 2 horses on top that are probably going to be pretty short prices, and I try to always, in this type of race, put a big price if I see fit. And this one, has some upside. I think, starting for the first time, the dam broke her maiden sprinting on debut, so that's a good sign. The dam's.
I love Aunt Babe. I was serious. I got nothing but love for Aunt Babe. A little weird. Yeah. It's a little interesting that Jose Lezcano shows up on this horse, isn't it?
That was the other thing that I noted. I mean, Jose Lezcano's jumping aboard, and he's only teamed up with James Ferraro in 6 starts over the past 5 years, and never with a first-time starter. So that definitely caught my eye. As James Ferraro is 1 for 25.
Oh, Jimmy, we got to stop with this, James. He'd be offended probably. I yelled at Chris Griffin today and said, "Would you please call him Jimmy?"
Jimmy is 1 for 25 with first-time starters over the last 5 years at Aqueduct. So I did think that it was interesting that Jose Lezcano jumped aboard this one. He doesn't ride for him often. And the dam has very precocious pedigree, and this is her first fall by Midnight Loot. So this is the perfect spot for that type of horse. And I even digged a little deeper. The second dam produced some runners that were precocious themselves. So hopefully this one is able to pass that along to her foals as well. And I thought that, the work 2 back, going 4 furlongs and 47-1, it's pretty decent work. Shows that maybe this horse has some speed. You're going to get a massive price, so probably going to try to play this one underneath.
I'm guessing Jimmy's ROI is positive with that 1 for 25. I feel like his first that won was a gigantic price, or am I beyond the 5 years on that horse? I think he had a crazy big price win here. I think it was a McMahon horse that paid like over $100. Is that possible? Is it a huge ROI?
I'm going to check right now.
I can look. It'll take 2 seconds.
That is an interesting final get out race, as we have Vakinda, who very well could step up. If they send the lead, maybe this horse finally kind of gets the job done. But I think a very beatable favorite, as all of us have tried to do so, Andy, with the number 9, as well as a little bit to the number 6 with Kaylie and I as the top pick, and then the 11 Sanzio, first time starter, kind of fresh face, sharp work looking 2 back. Very, very competitive sequence, but a great weekend of racing coming up this weekend at Aqueduct. I'm certainly excited. Andy, if you had to pick a favorite race that you're looking forward to, a race you're looking forward to most this weekend, whether it's at Aqueduct or across the country, do you have one?
Well, I know there's a lot of interesting races out of town, but I haven't looked at them. I'm looking forward to the Gotham. The Gotham is one of my favorite races and has been for many, many years. It always feels like a little bit, especially, I'm old. I remember when it was running at the beginning of October. But it always feels like a bit of a right to spring. It's sort of often the weather's turning and it feels like we're on the right track to getting things better. And I don't think there's anybody in here that right now, Sandoval's good. I don't want to be dismissive of him. He's really good. They've shown they're grade 1 type horses, but I think there's a lot of horses can win it, and I may have just a terrible opinion in this race, but I just thought it was a really fun competitive race. I think both this and the Busher are competitive races, so I'm looking forward to them. I may have bad ideas in them, but I think they're fun races, and I'm looking forward to seeing them and seeing what happens. So I'm excited for Saturday in general.
They're certainly fun races. Kaylie, I'll turn it over to you. What are you looking forward to most during this weekend of racing?
Completely agree. I mean, obviously the Gotham Day at Aqueduct, I love going to Aqueduct and on a big day. I mean, most days, but definitely big days are a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm excited to see how that, Chad Brown horse is going to run in there, and the Gotham, the Jeremon horse. And and weirdly enough, I'm pretty excited to see Liam in the Dust cut back and see if that horse is able to put the pieces together. One that's shown a lot of talent. And out of town, I'm definitely going to be rooting for Sovereignty on Saturday. Probably another one I'm pretty excited for.
There we go. Yeah, Sovereignty, trained by Bill Mott, runs down in the Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream Park. I'm looking forward to a lot of the Saturday racing, but the horse and race I'm looking forward to most runs on Sunday. Cipriani in the Oaks Prep out at Santa Anita. That's a horse I've been high on since she broke her maiden, so I'm excited to see her run back. She doesn't meet the Beast of the Baffert fillies, Tenma, in there, so I'm looking forward to seeing her run, hopefully improve, and hope to see her in the starting gate come Oaks Day. But we have a few more races, a few more Derby and Oaks Preps to go as we lead up to the first Saturday in May. But Andy, I want to thank you for the time, for joining us once again. That was a ton of fun. I love when you have the time to join us. Sorry to ruin the evening with the mispronunciation of Worcester.
Yes, I was wondering if people would get that right when I saw it. You just annoyed a lot of people in Massachusetts, which I'm warning you means if you come to Saratoga this summer, you could be in a lot of trouble. So you better hope a lot of people from Boston and stuff aren't watching the show, or you could be like enemy number one for getting it wrong.
All right. Well, I'll keep that in mind.
I'll forgive you because I like you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Andy,
yeah. I always enjoy coming on. I appreciate the work you guys are doing, and gals.
It is a ton of fun. Kaylie, thank you as always. Happy you're doing better. And obviously, wherever Jackson is listening to this, I will pass on that you are severely disappointed that he chose.
Better have a big game.
Softball.
If he doesn't have a big game, I'm going to really be annoyed.
I know. I need at least 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and the rest in order for him to be
type
excused.
Performance from him on the softball field.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for watching. Kaylie and Andy, thank you once again. Everybody, take care, and we will see you next week.